you guys? It is me, Melody, here for a new video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my Enneagram and kind of what it's like to be my Enneagram and kind of my own personal experience with being an Enneagram One. This is kind of a continuation of this week's video where I did an overview of the Enneagram, kind of just giving you guys a general overview of Enneagram in general and my Enneagram and tri-type. So if you haven't checked out that video, I would highly recommend that you check out that video first, because I kind of talked a little bit about some things in that video that would probably make more sense in this video. So anyways, yeah, like I said in my last video, I identify with an Enneagram 1. I don't identify super strongly, but it's like if I had to choose an Enneagram, I think that I would be Enneagram 1. So I kind of want to talk about some of the implications of that today and how things have played out in my own life with kind of having this disposition towards leading towards a 1 and perfectionism, and kind of what perfectionism has looked like in my life, and more specifically as an INFJ type. So the Enneagram 1 is labeled the perfectionist, and in my last video I talked a little bit about how I didn't fully relate to a lot of the 1 descriptions that I had read about because they kind of seemed more geared towards like a sensor type and not like an intuitive Dom type. So for me with perfectionism, it's played out in my life in a lot of ways. Some in a very unhealthy way and some in a more healthier way. I would say that I've moved more towards the path of health as I've gotten older. And, you know, I do think I could always grow in my health as a 1, but I do think I'm in a good place as a 1 right now. So kind of how my perfectionist issues played out in my life. I know when I was young, probably around like junior high / a little bit of high school, I really struggled with the way that I looked. And I know women in general tend to struggle in this area, and I think a lot of it for me was my perfectionist tendencies and also like pleasing others. So I'm a 1 with a wing 2, which is all about others, and it's more of a heart function, and it's more like, you know, the caring type or caregiver or whatever. So I guess an MBTI, that would be kind of my FE, really taking root and influencing my 1. So an example of this would be when I was in junior high / high school, I was very much insecure with the way that I looked. I needed things to be perfect. I would literally, as a 6th grader, curl my hair before school. I wore makeup. I was very like OCD with like making sure like my clothes looked a certain way or I looked a certain way. I'd make sure my nails were painted. Like, just for a 6th grader, I think it was a little bit intense. I also did dancing throughout my whole life. My main area that I danced was I did ballet for many years, and if you've ever taken ballet or you've watched ballet or you've read about ballet, it is I think it is actually the top most perfectionist physical activity you can do. Like, even just having your finger slightly off is a bad position, and so it was very technical. Ballet, like there's a beautiful art to it, but it's also like getting things perfect. And so I did ballet, and my perfectionism would kind of manifest in the fact that I kind of chose ballet, which I think is interesting. And then also I did cheerleading for 2 years in junior high, and so I became very unhealthy with the way I looked, and there was just a lot of insecurities around that. I'm not going to go too in detail about that because I'm actually planning on making a whole separate video with body image and women and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to save a lot of the details about that for that video. But just to kind of explain how perfectionism impacted my life, it played out a lot in the way that I physically looked, and just needing things to be like look a certain way. It came out when I did ballet. I felt like, on one hand, it was like I love to dance and it made me so happy, but then there was the dark side of it, whereas like it made me very unhappy because I was so upset that I couldn't get things in certain moves to be a certain way, and I felt like certain things that my physical body just could not do, like certain positions or moves, and I would get so frustrated because I had such a high ideal for perfectionism in those areas. And this has also played out in my life in a lot of unhealthy ways, where I won't pursue certain things, or I won't tell anyone that I'm pursuing something because I'm so scared that they're going to criticize it and it not be perfect. And I mean, that even comes from YouTube. Like, I don't show my family any YouTube videos that I make. Like, I'm such a harsh critic of myself that the thought of other people criticizing me gets very overwhelming and I get anxious. And that has really stopped me from doing a lot of awesome things in my life, because I will disqualify myself from something before I've even really given it a try. You know, I had this same issue when I thought about doing music or singing. I've always, had a decent natural ear for music and voice, and my whole life, like, people would tell me, you should sing, like, you know, we've heard you sing before and you can sing really good, but I never had like lessons, or I took piano lessons for a bit and it didn't go well, so I quit it altogether, and I was just really harsh on myself. So I feel like that even impacted me for really going after some things that I'm passionate about, because if I couldn't be perfect in it, I would get so discouraged and frustrated and criticize myself and then stop it altogether, which is really sad, because when you pursue anything in life, like, there's a level of learning and growth, and to be vulnerable in the process of that is really key. And as an adult, like, I'm just starting to learn this, like, this year, where I'm really trying to like not be so hard on myself, be more loving towards myself, and give myself the freedom and the space to actually like grow in something and learn something. And hopefully, I'm still working on it, but be vulnerable enough to share things with others and not let my perfectionist tendencies get in the way of really growing and creating something beautiful. So yeah, that's kind of how perfectionism manifests in my life. It's more, I guess, from an INFJ's perspective, in a more intuitive way. In a fun way, I do that with like, I like things to look a certain way aesthetically. It was to the point growing up where like I didn't have any money when I obviously was living with roommates or whatever, and I'd have my own room, and I'm kind of like an all or nothing person. It either is going to look perfect, or I don't even want to do anything at all. So an example of that would be like my room. Like, I never had enough money to get certain furniture or decor in the way that I wanted to and have it look the way I wanted to. So instead of like just sort of getting stuff when I could, I would just like disregard it altogether. It was like, and I remember growing up, my room when I lived with people was just like so not cute. Like, I would have like, whatever comforter and sheets I had, like I just wouldn't invest in it because I couldn't have it to be perfect the way I wanted. So instead of just creating a nice room, my room would just be like a mess and nothing, and I liked it. I didn't have a value for any of my stuff because I wanted it to be perfect. And so I know that sounds weird, but that's just kind of how I am. It's like I either like things need to look a certain way, I don't like it at all. So for example, is like the place me and Caleb live right now, I love it. Like, as you can see, like I haven't really done like a house tour yet, but I have spent hours getting the decor to look a certain way in our house. And like, I love this bed frame and our pillows, and we have like all rustic wood furniture in here and all these trinkets on the desk, and upstairs I have like a very like kind kind of rustic, chic, bohemian vibe in our whole house. And I love the decor and it looks the way I want it to. So now that I have what I want, I'll upkeep it and I need it to be perfect. But it's like an all or nothing. I don't know if that makes sense, but just with stuff, like even example with videos, like honestly, I struggled coming back to YouTube because I didn't like any of the way my videos looked. I didn't like how they were filmed. I didn't like the lighting. I didn't like anything in my old videos. And I honestly just wanted to hide them and delete them, but it was like, obviously there's lots of good content there, and the stuff that I was saying in some of my videos, I know that a lot of people would have been just like really upset that I deleted them, and a lot of them have like a decent amount of views, so it was just like, okay, I'm not going to delete them, but that's just kind of how my mind works with perfectionist stuff. Like, I'm often very reserved in sharing anything that I create with other people because I'm so, if it's not perfect, I don't want to share it at all. And it has really debilitated me a lot in life because there's things that I've created or I've spent time on and no one knows that I do, because before I'll even like show people, like let's say I wrote something or I like sing something, whatever, I will just not do it out of fear of it not being a certain way. And I really admire people that aren't that way. Like my husband's not that way. Like he'll just do something and just do it. And we'll share it with people. And I know lots of ENFPs that are that way, that will just like be passionate about something and then they'll do it. And I think that's really, really cool, but it's like really hard for me to do that. Like I don't know, it just is. So it's something that I'm actively working on as an adult. But I just thought I would share this because I do think it relates to my Enneagram. I do know that INFJs in general tend to be perfectionists and they tend to be reserved. So I know this also just applies to INFJs, but the fact that I'm also an Enneagram 1, I think kind of like heightens my perfectionist tendencies. So it's something that like through studying the Enneagram, I've become a little bit more self-aware of like, okay, what motivates me? Like I want things to be a certain way. And even with like health, I'm really into health and I'm studying holistic nutrition right now, and I'm probably going to get certified in it and go back to like some kind of certification program for like 6 months to a year. Waiting to do that when we have a little bit more money. But even with that, like it's still the same motivation behind it of like needing to like have the perfect, optimal, healthy body. Some other things that like, I actually had a friend point out who's another INFJ, knows way more about this stuff than I do. And she was like, she's not a 1, but she mentioned like, you know, the reason why I do think you're a 1 is because of how you even speak and I guess conduct yourself. And she's like, you always sit up with straight, like just perfect posture. And my whole life, people have commented on my posture. Like at school, like I had people always comment on it because like I guess kids would always notice that I was sitting up so straight. People would like mention it at lunch, or like, you have incredible posture. And I know a lot of that was just doing dance, but I've always sat up with like perfect posture. And she's like, you know, if you watch different 1 types in interviews, they have this very like particular way of speaking, and even their body language of just like being, you know, always saying the correct thing almost, and always sitting up straight and just that kind of thing. So that was kind of another interesting observation that she pointed out to me, being a 1. And I'd be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Do you think 1 types kind of speak a certain way and conduct themselves a certain way? I know for me, like when I'm in certain environments, I'm always gauging what's socially appropriate. And depending on the environment, I will act a certain way, using my FE to know how I should socially act. And I'm always like very aware of that. And I feel like not all of their types do that as much as I do, where they're just kind of themselves and the same in every environment. Whereas I'm very much gauging each environment and knowing how I should act and how I should be. And so yeah, those are just some things. I know like one of the repressed emotions they talk about for 1s is anger. I don't fully relate to that. I will say I don't tend to get angry, but I will say when I'm angry, I feel like I black out. I rarely ever get angry, but there's been a few times in my life where I got really mad and I did feel like an entirely different person, where I felt like just a fuse went off, and I think I even cussed somebody out one time. So, I mean, that was like the younger me. And I can only think of 2 occasions or maybe 3 my entire life where I really got angry. But when I am, it is very, very scary. So I guess that could be kind of a one thing. I don't know. Again, I'm super new to Enneagram, so you guys that are more well-informed with Enneagram could tell me some of this stuff. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to share a little bit, kind of a continuation of like what I talked about the other day. Kind of how the perfectionism relates to me as an individual. It's more based on like things I'm pursuing or creative endeavors, or aesthetically, if I'm working on something and it's creative for me, I will have to have it a certain way. But even like, I actually like, I'm not that much of a neat person. I'm kind of like medium clean. So there's some things that I don't fully relate to with the ones. But I just thought I would share kind of my thoughts. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you guys trying to learn about ones that are maybe like intuitives. Let me know in the comments down below how you relate to being a 1 if you are an intuitive type, because I'm really curious to hear maybe some similarities or differences. Also, if you're a 1 and you're not an intuitive, please write down below how your perfectionism kind of impacts your life and what are the just the ways that it affects you as a person. So yeah, that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I'll probably do another video on Enneagram again, but I just wanted to kind of introduce this topic and talk a little bit more about me. And yeah, so that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.